Hello everybody and welcome to the second and final part of the Hemlock Vale re-rank 1 year later. Let's see how strong these cards are after a year of me playing and seeing them played with. And then also comparing our points, our rank that we gave it last year to this year to see how things have changed. We've already re-ranked all the level 0 cards. And I'm very excited to see the difference and final score once we get all of these experience cards in here. Because let me tell you, while there may be some stinkers in the experience cards of Hemlock Vale, there are a lot of really good cards as well. So, my ranking is pretty simple. 1 means I expect this card to never leave the binder unless I am doing some sort of challenge run. 1.5 is I don't expect it to leave the binder, but I can see use cases for why it would leave the binder, or I would see use cases why other people might play the card, but I am less likely to play the card. 2.0 is cards are not bad, but leaning closer to bad than they are good. So they're fine, but leaning closer to bad. Alternatively, combo cards that require like 6 to 7 pieces are usually going to be here as well. Yes, there's a lot of good in ARKHAM, and ARKHAM has kind of become more combo-centric as the card pool has grown. But just because a card is good with 6 other cards doesn't mean that the card itself is good, right? 2.5 are cards that are fine. These are cards that I'll be happy to include in my level 0 deck. Not so much for experience cards because, you know, they're experienced. But they're going to just kind of probably get cut. For experience cards, I'm going to, like, maybe, you can look at fine cards as, like, these are cards that I would try out to see if they would work, or they require a lot of pieces to, or not even a lot of pieces, like 2 pieces to actually start popping off. 3 are the cards that are actively good. These are the cards that I'm, like, looking to play, looking to add to my deck. 3.5, they just get better. 4.0 is when we start to get to cards that I think are, like, actually, like, incredibly powerful, like excellent cards. 4.5 is like so freaking good that like putting it down. So like 4.5 and 5, the difference between them, so that 4.5 and 5, they kind of exist in the place that when you play them, they're going to be a big swing for your turn. And they require very little investment to be that good, or alternatively, the investment is worth it because they are that powerful. The difference between 4.5 and 5 is, I think, for me, just how ubiquitous the card is. If you can see it everywhere, then it's more likely to be a 5. If you only see it in a few places, it's more likely to be a 4.5. Just that's kind of like the splitting hairs between those two. But let us start with our first card of the day. And let me get the poll ready for chat so they can get their votes in the form of Blessed Blade level 4. Action, fight. You get +2 fists for this attack. If this attack is successful, it deals +1 damage. Return each Blessed token revealed during this attack to the Chaos bag. Before revealing Chaos tokens for this attack, you may exhaust Blessed Blade to add 2 Blessed tokens to the Chaos bag. So, this is actually like, while not as over the top obnoxious as Cyclopean Hammer, I think it's actually pretty close to being as over the top obnoxious as Cyclopean Hammer. Cyclopean Hammer gets a pretty bad rap, rightfully so, because the card is incredibly powerful and also incredibly boring. And I think that Blessed Blade is actually incredibly close to the same point of power. Every time, chat's given it a 4.2, by the way, up from a 3.8. Every time I play Blessed Blade, or I've seen someone play Blessed Blade, it's kind of fallen into the exact same thing, where you read the card and you're like, wait a minute, this does everything? It does all that I've wanted and more, and it only takes up 1 hand slot, so I can still use my other hand slot for things. So, like, Cyclopean Hammer is very powerful, but alternatively, it takes up 2 hand slots. So, that is, I mean, when you have the Cyclopean Hammer, you don't need anything else except for the Cyclopean Hammer, but the effect is just, like, disgusting for just, like, one hand slot. This is kind of crazy. So notably, this is compared to the tabooed Cyclopean Hammer. So the tabooed Cyclopean Hammer, you get the 1+3 damage, like +2 damage, so you get, like, the 1 swing at the +2. And the with the taboo, like without the taboo, obviously without the taboo it's much stronger because repeatable 3 damage is a hell of a drug. But this is like not only a good, not even a good bless adder, but it's a good bless keeper. I'm debating between 4.5 and 5, to be honest with all of you. I gave it a 4 last year, but I think after seeing it in practice, I'm like, this is even better. You don't even need bless tokens to do anything. I think, like, I don't think it's on the same level of Runic Axe and Cyclopean Hammer, but I do think it's very close. I would give Runic Axe and Cyclopean a 5, so I think I'm going to give Blessed Blade a 4.5. Card was absolutely crazy after playing with it for a year. Every time I've seen it, I've been like, oh god, it's here again, and it just keeps adding bless tokens. It doesn't remove bless tokens. It's like you also get a Sacred Covenant in here. You get a Sacred Covenant, you get like half a Keep Faith. It's a pretty powerful card. Next up, we got Cleaning Kit level 3. So, this is a 3-cost card, takes up your accessory slot. It's an item and a tool. It uses 4 supplies. Supplies on Cleaning Kit may be spent as if they were supplies on ammo or assets you control. As a reaction, when a supply is spent from Cleaning Kit, exhausted, the Performing Investigator gets +2 skill value for this test. I'm pretty sure I gave Cleaning Kit a 3. I'm going to give this one a 3.5. So, the reason for this is that the dividing line between them, as you can see up here, Cleaning Kit I gave a 3 compared to the 3.5. Well, I gave it a 3. I gave them both 3.5. I actually do find that while I think the effect of having more ammo is ultimately worth a 3. It doesn't actually, like yes, it's another copy of your gun. Yes, it scales with like the XP you put into your deck. But at the same time, I think that just like more ammo is good, but not like impactful enough for me to be like, yes, please. What I really like about Cleaning Kit 3 is the synergy that exists with getting that extra boost. Your plan is not to get that extra boost. Like your plan is not relying on having that extra boost to do the thing. But like if you are looking at using like, for example, shotguns or stuff like that, that is a really cool like thing to explore and something that I really enjoy for Cleaning Kit, because then like it takes out space that would otherwise be needed to make your shotgun more efficient. Notably, Chad gave it a 3.3, which is lower only by 0.3 than the score they gave to Cleaning Kit 0. Which I think is entirely fair. Me giving the Cleaning Kit 3 as a higher rating than Cleaning Kit 0 is kind of that's how I feel, but I don't expect that to be the logic for everybody. But I enjoy Cleaning Kit 3 more, because when I play Cleaning Kit 0, I'm just like, that's more ammo. But with Cleaning Kit 3, I'm like, that's more ammo, and it actually synergizes with my weapon choice. It allows me to also play things that like, I can just get more out of it. So that's why I personally enjoy Cleaning Kit 3 a little bit more. All right, next up, we have the Eyes of Valusia. So, this one also has its bonded card, which I do have here, which we can talk about. This card, 3 cost, 4 experience, takes up a hand and arcane slot, action parlay. Choose an enemy at your location until the end of the round. Each investigator gets +1 skill value while fighting, evading, or parlaying with the chosen enemy. Place 1 resource on Eyes of Valusia as a charge. As a lightning bolt, search your bonded cards for Blade of Yoth and swap it with Eyes of Valusia, moving all charges from Eyes of Valusia to Blade of Yoth. For Blade of Yoth over here, this is bonded. Spend as an action 1 to 3 charges, fight. For this attack, you may use Brain instead of Fist. You get +2 skill value and deal +1 damage for each charge spent as part of this action's cost. As a lightning bolt, you can swap back for the bonded cards of Eyes of Valusia and swap it with Blade of Yoth, discarding all charges. So yes, Let's talk about, this one's gonna take a while because we have a lot to unpack here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait for this poll to finish, and then I'm going to kind of start diving into my thoughts on this card. So, 1, 2, 1, 2, and a 5. Oh, not enough, a 5. So chat's gonna give it a 3.2, which is up slightly than their score from last year. They had a perfect 3 last year. Okay, so Eyes of Valusia is a very interesting card where I think that just due to the nature of how people play, I do think that it is ultimately underplayed. And the reason for that is because you can't really afford this card if you're playing 1 or 2 players, which I would wager, I'm just going to take a shot in the dark here, is the most common way this game is played. I would say this game is most commonly played at probably, I mean, I was going to say 2-player, but it might be, it might be solo. It might be solo, might be the way people play this game the most. Because I'm just thinking, like, if people pick it up and they don't have anyone to play with, and they're just going to play by themselves, 2-handed solo, I don't know. I don't think it's 3-player. I really don't. I think if it's 2-handed, sorry, I think it's solo or 2-player, including 2. If it's including 2-handed solo, it's definitely 2-player. But I don't think it's 3. Because, like, it's one of those things where, like, a lot of people, they won't say that they're just, like, going to do it themselves, right? Yeah. But that's what I think this card is really suffering from. Because I think this card is actually pretty playable as a support card. And then actually, like, realistically, Blade of Yoth actually does a really good job of killing enemies. I think it is, like, actually, like, it's a pretty good kill. The only problem is that unless you're Alessandra or a support, that parlay on the Eyes of Valusia just doesn't really, like, actually, like, do anything enough to impact the game unless it's free or your job is to just kind of, like, stand in the corner and do your own thing. As soon as your job actually becomes an official I'm a problem solver, Eyes of Valusia is just, like, takes too long to solve those problems, right? So I think that's kind of like the hard part. I think the card actually is pretty legit, but I'm going to stick with my rating from last year. I think 3 is where I'm going to put this one. Okay. Flurry of Blows. 2 cost, 5 experience, tactic double faded, play only if you control a melee asset as additional cost to play Flurry of Blows, spend an action. Fight, choose a melee asset you control and take an immediate fight action with that asset without paying its action cost. So you don't get to ignore all cost with the Sledgehammer. That's important. You may repeat this effect up to 3 times. After the final attack resolves, if it is your turn, end your turn. So I think the bummer of this card is that they decided to not let you have fun with it. It's such a Timmy card, but the thing that you, like, a Timmy wants to do is, like, swing their Sledgehammer 3 times, right? Well, 4 times. They want to go crazy with that hammer shit. What an interesting poll. And chat went to 2.6 for this. So, I think this card is actually pretty playable. But the issue is, like, is it worth 5 experience, right? If you talk about this game, and this is why it's going to be very interesting when we start getting formats, right? Because then we can talk about this card without without also talking about like 1-2 punch 5, right? Because if I had to choose just in a vacuum, assuming I had a melee weapon, right, and assuming my melee weapon was good because I wanted to be like winning the game, I would choose 1-2 punch probably 95% of the time, just because I think the power on that is easier to have more consistent. And I think that's kind of Flurry of Blows' problem, is that that power of having this actually trigger is lower than you would think, right? Like, yes, there is the time when you have the boss monster that shows up and you can just kill this thing with it. But, for example, 1-2 punch, the card I'm going to compare this to, because it is a 2-cost, 5 experience damage card, right? It's essentially a damage event. That is then 1-2 punch. Yes, they both can kill a boss. They're both going to deal a lot of damage to the boss. But Flurry of Blows is more awkward, because if you have to use it on a small enemy and you waste things, you basically wasted some of the card's value. You can't like do like the movement, like this costing 2 actions. Yes, you get a bunch of things, but like 1 action is more versatile than 2 actions. But I think overall the card is just like too fair for a 5 experience card. I really wish it was just like ignoring all costs and they just let the sledgehammer do some fun. I'm gonna wager my prediction. This is, put the banner, Justin's prediction for the future of Arkham Horror is that we're going to see, with this new current and legacy, we're going to see cards that care less about legacy. So, for example, this card was designed with Sledgehammer in mind, but in the future, they're not going to care about Sledgehammer because Sledgehammer doesn't exist. That is my thought. I think the best weapons to do this with are obviously things like Cyclopean Hammer. Blessed Blades 4 is really good. And the, like, even, I mean, like, Sledgehammer is still fine. I did with Butterfly Swords. I think overall the card is still good. And I could still play it. But I think there's just like too many like stars and caveats. So I'm debating between, like, if I could put it at 2.75, I would. I'm just debating if I round up or down. And considering it's almost Easter and I'm in a good mood, I'm going to rate it, I'm going to go up. I'm going to give it a 3 because I do think the card actually is pretty legit, but not enough. Not enough in comparison to other things. But I still think the card is still actually like a legit card. But Sledgehammer and this are only 1 campaign away from each other? Not true. They are 2 campaigns away from each other. You have forgot about Scarlet Keys, which is sitting between the 2. So that's what I'm saying. This card is designed with Sledgehammer, but when Sledgehammer rotates out, Sledgehammer won't exist, and then they're probably not going to design with a Sledgehammer caveat, and then instead they're just going to be like, hey, baby. Like, I'm not saying, like, for example, Hand-Eye Coordination, the next card. Oh, shit, it is the next card. Let's go. Like, I'm not saying, for example, that Hand-Eye Coordination is going to do ignoring all costs, because Sledgehammer is, not even because of Sledgehammer, just because I feel like a 5 experience card, like Flurry of Blows, can ignore all costs, but this one, if it's just like resolving one that's in play, I feel like that was because of Sledgehammer, but when Sledgehammer's gone, it's not going to be a consideration. That's what I'm saying. All right. Hand-Eye Coordination. How strong is this card, chat? 1 cost, 1 experience. Insight, fast, play only during your turn. Resolve an action ability on a tool or weapon asset you control without paying its cost. I think it's fine. I've actually used it in quite a number of my decks, but it's mostly just to get, like, I've actually used it on, like, the clue side more. I really like it in Wilson Richards when I'm able to use my tools to do a variety of things. But for weapons, it's generally not as worth it because weapons are kind of just, like, efficient enough. And I think the reality is that most of the time, a weapon, an enemy dies before all the clues are discovered. So you generally want more actions to do the clue side than you want to do the fight side, generally. So I'm going to give it a 2.5. which is the exact score I gave it last year. Good job, Justin. Chat gave it a 3.5. Let's see what they give it this year. Wow. A 3. Hell yeah. All right. Okay. Next up, we got Miracle Wish. How could this happen to me? That's what Guardian was thinking when they saw that they had Miracle Wish in their card pool. Alright. X cost, 5 experience, fast. Play after 1 or more blessed tokens are revealed during a skill test at your location. Search your bonded cards for Evanescent Ascension and put into play. Place up to X resources on it as wishes to a maximum number of blessed tokens revealed. Remove Miracle Wish from the game. And then we have Evanescent Ascension, which is bonded Miracle Wish. If Evanescent Ascension has no wishes, set it aside out of play. As a reaction, when an investigator at your location would fail a skill test, spend 1 wish and exhaust Evanescent Ascension. Resolve that investigator's Elder Sign effect. In addition to all other tokens revealed during this test. So, everyone, let's play a little game while we wait for the votes to tally in. How many blesses do you think was the highest amount of blesses that I was able to trigger this card off of? I want everyone to take a shot of what you think I got for my highest of ever playing this card. Chat's giving it a 2.4, by the way. The correct answer was 2. Yes. So, we're going to sit on the first part of that. The 2 is really bad, right? Like, let's talk about us missed a card called Seal of the Elder Sign, which at this point now in the card pool is kind of like outclassed, but it's 5 experience for 1 Elder Sign. And you don't need to jump through any hoops, right? So the question is, am I going to pay 5 experience for what, in my opinion, is a worse version of Seal of the Elder Sign because there are hoops you need to jump through? And then, additionally, Evanescent Ascension might not even cause you to pass the test. And additionally, you have to have a team comp that wants to take advantage of, like, blessed tokens with investigators with good Elder Signs. Because, like, if you're just Sister Mary putting 2 blessed tokens in the bag, that ain't gonna cut it. That ain't gonna cut it. I think this card is actually close to unplayable. I'm gonna give it a 1.5. I think it's pretty bad. Yeah. Not a great showing from the Guardian 5 experience cards for this cycle. I think, like I said, I think that Flurry of Blows is good, but they're kind of weighed down by Miracle Wish. All right, next up we got Second Wind level 2. Alright, so, Second Wind, 0 cost, 2 experience, play only as your first action, heal 2 damage, 3 damage instead if you drew a Treachery this round, and then draw 1 card. I mean, the card's, like, fine, it's not a priority upgrade, but if you're looking at playing Second Wind, you're probably, like, happy to eventually get the upgraded version. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the difference is it's cheaper. Is it even cheaper? But you heal 1 damage, but it's or 2 instead if you drew a Treachery as opposed to that. Let's check it out. Arkham.build. Give me a quick Second Wind. It does. It is 1 cheaper. And it just doubles up the healing. Well, it adds 1 to each of the healings. Okay. Look at that. I am smart. I do know these cards. Yeah, I think it's fine. I'm going to give it a 2.5. Good job, past Justin. You aligned with future Justin's tastes. And chat gave it a 2.9. Notably, chat is more positive on it this year than they were last year. I mean, I think the card's playable. I'm never going to blink if someone plays Upgraded Second Wind. Yeah, I think like Second Wind 0 is playable in a lot of decks, and I'm pretty sure that Second Wind 2 is a fine upgrade to take. So, just going to give it a 2.5 because I think it's pretty okay. All right, next up, we got Strong Armed. And boy, oh boy, do I have some thoughts about Strong Armed. Strong Armed is a 1 experience Guardian skill that's innate. While Strong Arm is committed to an attack using a melee or ranged asset, this attack deals +1 damage. After revealing Chaos tokens for the skill test, you may take 1 damage to cancel that Chaos token, return to the Chaos bag, and reveal a new one. You may do this any number of times. I'm going to give it a 3. I do think it was less impactful than I thought it was going to be. And the main reason for that is that I do remember when I killed myself with it as Katana Zoe. That was pretty funny. I enjoyed that. But when everyone, like myself included, when we saw this card, we were like, now I can run 4 Vicious Blows. And then you try it out, and you keep drawing Vicious Blows, and then you're kind of just like, I wish my deck... it's not I wish. Because, like, more Vicious Blows is nice. Chat went down to 3.7. You get there and you realize, like, Vicious Blows are nice, but at a certain point, you realize, I don't need 4 Vicious Blows. Like, I don't need that many Vicious Blows to win the game, and my deck is actually becoming less efficient by having more Vicious Blows in my deck. These cards, I think, were better for people that, like, didn't have access to Vicious Blows, like in the form of Silas, but unfortunately for Strong Arm, but luckily for Silas, Silas also got Long Shot here, so even he is starting to be like, do I need 4 Vicious Blows, right? And then, yeah, I agree with you, Holy Helicopter. The real Vicious Blow, being able to commit to basic fight, does come up too. Like, it's one of those things where you realize that, like, it's good. Like, I'm never going to blink if someone plays Strong Armed, right? But it is one of those things that I didn't realize that when I was saying, oh my god, 4 Vicious Blows, I didn't realize that I've become so accustomed and the game is kind of balanced around 2 Vicious Blows that I'd rather those cards be something else that impact the game in a different way. And what that means is that you only have 30 cards in your deck. And while a lot of people's solution is to just buy a permanent that puts more cards into your deck, my solution alternatively is questioning the efficiency of my deck and if I actually need that card in that deck, and really like scrutinizing those 30 card slots that I have. And ultimately, in practice, Strong Armed just ended up being something that I was like, I don't need this. I'll build around it if I'm using like a melee or ranged asset that cares about symbol tokens as well. And then it'll probably make it in over Vicious Blow. Like, I'll upgrade my Vicious Blows into this. But I don't think in the end we needed 4 Vicious Blows, even though we all thought, hey, 4 Vicious Blows sounds kind of cool. All right, let's move on to the Seeker cards here with our good friend Mr. Microscope, the upgraded version. So this is 4 experience, costs 2, takes up the hand slot. As a reaction, after enemy location is successfully evaded or defeated, place 1 resource on Microscope as evidence. As a double action investigate, you get +2 book for this investigation for each evidence on Microscope to a max of +6. If you succeed, you may spend up to 3 evidence to discover that many additional clues at your location. I think this card is good, but I think it has similar weaknesses to level 0 Microscope, in the sense that, yes, you can you can rely on your teammates, but obviously you want a plan that's better for yourself. I think Keimani is the best user of this card, like to an insane degree. But unfortunately, I don't think it brings up the card that much. I'm going to give it a 3. I was very high on Microscope last year. That's crazy. Like, I don't think it's crazy in that I was wrong, because I think then again, like, it seemed so much easier to trigger. And then you play with it in practice. And chat also, I mean, chat was actually the exact same, 3.4. Good job, chat. Nice job. It ends up being like a little bit more awkward to play around than just like doing the other things. But it's still good, and it's still, you can build a deck around it. And in Keimani, it's probably a 4.5, right? Each investigator kind of also can just like change the power level of a card. All right. Next up, we got the Prismatic Spectacles. Spectacles, Testicles, Wallet, and Watch. But like with curse tokens. 2 cost, 2 experience. Takes up the accessory slot. As an action, add 1 curse token to the Chaos Bag, Investigate. You get +2 skill value for this investigation. If a curse token is revealed during this investigation, you may exhaust Prismatic Spectacles to discover 1 additional clue at your location. Obviously, you want to be able to draw curse tokens on demand. Otherwise, this card is actually like pretty poopy. You want to be able to be drawing curse tokens. So in order to give the card a good, actual, honest showing, I'm going to be talking about it in the respects of the Seeker class. Sorry, of course in the Seeker class, but in the curse, in a curse deck. And I mean, I think the card is good, right? It's a good card in the curse decks if you're able to be pulling tokens on demand. I guess just the question is, like, is that the best thing you can do in curse decks? And I think ultimately, no. But I'm also kind of a little bit skewed because I was playing, my last curse deck was Amanda Sharp. And I'm kind of feeling like I would have played that card in this deck, and I would have enjoyed playing this card in that deck. And I probably actually should have played this card in that deck. But that's my most recent example of a curse deck. And that was pretty good. I'm going to give it a 3, though. I think the card's still good. I think it's a good card. Yet, and this is, again, with the context of curse decks in mind. All right. Next up, we got Gabriel Carillo. Or Carillo. Probably Carillo, right? 4 cost, 1 experience. Takes up the ally slot, soaks for 2 and 1. You get +1 book as a reaction at the start of your turn. Add 1 curse token to the Chaos Bag, draw 1 card. I think he's good. I think he's very good, even. I'm going to give him a 3.5. I think he's obvious. I gave him a 4.5 last year. I don't think he was that good, actually. So playing, he has gone down a bit. I think he's still like, I think 4.5 was too high. I think my big thing was just that, like, maybe again after a year my power levels have shifted, right? My idea of what a powerful card is compared to last year can change after, again, another year of making 365 ARKHAM videos can do a lot to skew your information about the game and like change your thoughts on things. But if I look at it even right now, like I see Blessed Blade, I'm like, that's a 4.5, and I look at Gabriel Carillo and I'm like, that, unfortunately for Gabriel, for our good friend Gabe here, is not a 4.5. I still think he's very good, so I'm going to be putting him in there. Did he end up usurping? Chat's giving him a 3.9. Did he end up usurping Dr. Milan like a lot of people thought he was going to? Yes and no. I think Dr. Milan is still very good, but I also think that Dr. Milan, I think there's so much variety now for the Seeker ally that Dr. Milan's easy, but there is a lot of my Seeker decks like don't even run Dr. Milan anymore. A lot of my Seeker decks don't even run book boost allies anymore. I actually think like right now the ally that I run the most in the Seeker class is actually Lab Assistant, right? She's very good. So that's kind of like how things have shifted for me. Yeah, good old Labass. So maybe Dr. Milan is dead and Labass was the one holding the knife, but it wasn't Gabriel, even though I do think he is a very good ally. All right, Sentient Strain, Ravenous Myconid. We have our first of 3 Myconids here. So, these ones all have the search. They're all 4 experience. They all cost 2. These 2 have been tabooed. Both Sentient and Carnivorous have been tabooed to 5 XP. And I'm pretty sure I gave Sentient a 4.5. I gave Carnivorous a 4.5, Sentient a 4, and Nurturing a 3.3. And I'm going to be honest, I think I'm still on the same page. I remember that because I was like, Carnivorous is the strongest one. Easily. Sentient is the second strongest one, but notably, I was like, much worse. Actually, in combos, it's very good. Like, there's a whole combo you can do with things. You know. But I do think that that's going to stay pretty similar to what I had last year. And actually, chat was very similar as well. They had a 4.5. So this is Sentient, though. This is the Treachery one. All right. Let's see what they got. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4.1. Chat, you son of a gun. I'm also giving this a 4. You tied it up. So I think this card is good. But I don't think it's as dangerous for the game as the Carnivorous one is. I think these cards are also overrated in the sense that they are strong, but not overly so. I agree, and I actually think the taboo to 5 experience put them in a much better place. I think that it's looking really nice for these cards to be 5 experience, except for the last one. But I agree. I think the power of Sentient is I think overrated. People were like screaming about this one. I think the Carnivorous one. Let's go to Carnivorous now. I think Carnivorous is, so this one is, as a lightning bolt, choose an ally enemy or location with equal or fewer remaining health from the amount of growth on Ravenous Myconid. Defeat that enemy, remove all growth from Ravenous Myconid. I still think it's very powerful. I would have loved if I could have gotten in to the design process. I would have loved if this was just printed health, spend printed health growth. I think that would do a good job of, while doing the same thing, I think having that Seeker Guardian stopgap where it's this is the dividing line where the big health enemies still take a lot. And I know it's kind of the same thing that it has now, but I do feel mentally it would be better that way for people reading the card. So that's kind of my thought on that. But I also was not super scared of this card when it first came out. I knew it was going to be good, but not that good. I still like a 4.5 though. I still think the card is a very powerful card. And it probably is going to shift the game when you get it. So I'm going to give it a 4.5, and chat went to a 4.3 this year. And then we have the third one, Nurturing Strain, which I think we can all agree is the worst one of the group. And I think we can all agree it was much worse than we thought it was. I actually don't know if this one is actually good. Every time I've seen it being played, people are like, oh, this is awkward. I've killed it. You know, if I trigger it, I succeed by too much, and now it's dead. And is that good enough? And I think the answer is probably no. I'm going to give it a 2.5, I think. I don't think it's good. I think it's fine, but I don't think it's good, so I'm going to give it a 2.5. I just think it's actually surprisingly awkward to play with. And then, most of the time, you're just Oh. Like, it soaks, but then you're just like, oh, it's gonna die. It's dead. Because, like, maybe, like, in order to really trigger this guy, you need to be playing with a deck that, excuse me. You need to be playing with a deck that doesn't try to succeed by much, but then you run into the problem where it's like, that's another 3 from you guys. You run into this problem where it's like, then it's harder to translate it, you know? I mostly just know the move damage, and you're just using it as 3/3 soak. But I guess the question is that enough for, like, a researched card? But I'm not here to answer that. I'm just here to answer how powerful I think the card is. So let's go to the next one. Steady-handed. Two cost, when you succeed at a skill test exhaust steady-handed, you either succeed by 1 more or 1 less, and if you succeed by exactly 2, heal 1 horror. So, obviously this card is very good in precision decks, but the question is this card very good in every deck? And the answer to that is also, turns out, yes. I think it can be slightly awkward to hit. I'm going to give this card a 4.5, maybe a 4. I put it in pretty much every deck I play as a 1 of. And if that's not, like, one of these scores, I don't know what is, you know? Like, every other card we see, it's like I'm building my deck around this card. With steady-handed, I think it's like I'm just always including it. Alright, chat's almost done. I need to decide, but let's see what chat has. Steady-handed. Chat gave it a 3.8. What am I going to give it? It's going to be one of these two. 4.5, just because, like I said, it's been pretty much every secret deck I've played in the last year. And, spoiler alert, I think it's actually already going to be out on the channel by the time this video goes live. But I am playing Roland Banks in Drown City, and the first thing I did was spend experience to put steady-handed in my deck. I bought an In the Thick of It, and the first thing I bought was a steady-handed. So I think the card is very powerful, but I don't think it swings the game when you put it down, so I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's going to live up here. I think that's a legit card, though. Alright. Next up, we got Confound. Confound is a 2-cost, 3 experience event. Parlay, choose an enemy at your location, test book X, where X is the chosen enemy's evade value. If you succeed, discover 2 clues of your location. Then, if the chosen enemy is non-elite, automatically evaded. It does not ready during the next upkeep phase. So I think this card is good. I think it's like legit text on it. But I think, unfortunately, it's 1 experience too much for people to, I think, consider it across the board. You know? And then it does have that awkward thing where, yeah, you can't evade if there's not 2 clues to discover. But I don't know how much that matters for the card. But I think the big thing is just that I haven't seen this card. I actually have not seen anybody play this card in the last year. And I think a big reason for that is just that it doesn't feel worth, it doesn't feel worth 3 experience in my mind. Check gave it a 3.5, which I think is pretty fair. Good in parlay decks, and that's about it. question, though. Here's my question, though. Is it good in parlay decks? Or if I'm Alessandra, am I just going to play Breaking and Entering instead? Right? That's kind of like where, because like Breaking and Entering is 2 cost, and then I can like, yeah, and then I think Snitch also, like, I think it's one of those things. I played in my Kate deck and Feast of Hemlock Vale was so good I end up getting 2 Eidetic Memories so I can have 4. No, I agree. I think the card is good. I'm not here to say the card is bad. It's going to get at least a 3 from me. Probably it's going to get a 3, realistically. But basically won me the longest night on its own. Interesting. I don't like statements like that, but I'm not going to disagree. Because I don't believe it won longest night on its own. I believe there were 20 other factors that help influence that scenario, including token pulls and Mythos cards. But I'm not disagreeing with your statement. I just don't like those statements because I don't think they're true. But I don't disagree. I'm not saying you're wrong, but my mind can't accept those statements to be true. It helped, it definitely influenced it, but there were a lot of pieces to make that work. That's just my own, that's just my, there's nothing again, like I said, I'm not disagreeing with your statement, I can't accept those statements in my mind because now I'm suddenly thinking, I didn't say literally, no, it's true. But basically is like the new literally, just so we all know. Basically and literally are the same thing. Yeah, and also I agree with what you're saying, Spirit Juice. This is a card that also definitely gets better with more players. So this is one of those things. I think the card's good though. I'm gonna give it a 3. But I think it's like it was less good than we thought it was gonna be. Sorry, you guys did not give this a 2.5. You gave it a 3.5. I'm gonna give it a 3. So we're gonna do that. I think the card's good though, but I think it was just one experience too much to see constant play. I think if it was 2 experience, I put it in 3.5 for myself personally. All right. Fine tuning. Two costs, 1 experience. Oh, that broke my brain. Basically is basically literally not the same as literally. Literally, that's basically true. 2 costs, 1 experience. Attached to a tool or science asset you control, limit 1 per asset. As a reaction, after attached asset exhausts, exhaust fine-tuning ready attached asset. So I really like this card. I think it's pretty legit. I don't think it's like super powerful, but I think it's really efficient. I'm going to give it a 3. 3.5 last year, but I think, again, you're kind of seeing me skew my power level is like, I mean, it's fine. It's a good card, and it's a good combo piece, but 3.5, it is not. Put this card on Hand Hook and Wilson. Captain Hook Wilson. Chasing after Peter Pan, who is just Finn constantly running away from him. I'll get you, Peter Pan! What they want to do for their roleplay, we can't judge, right? Chat's gonna settle on a 3.4. Yeah, it's a combo piece, and I think it's a pretty fun combo piece. My favorite deck I've played this card in, there's 2 actually, was my Lockpicks Nose to the Grindstone Wilson, and then my Mortar and Pestle Spell Slinging Trish. Trish has that benefit. Trish has that benefit where she can do anything and do it well because her ability and card pool are so good. And Wilson really likes tools, so it's a really good thing. I think this is a card to watch out for. I think this is always going to just have use cases going up in the future, and I think that's really exciting for the card. All right, now we have Esoteric Method, which I notably need to separate myself from my Amanda Sharp run that I just did, because this card was a powerhouse in it. It was, I think, literally not the MVP card in my deck, but it was like easily top 4. And I need to separate that deck from the actual use case of this card. So what does this card actually do? This card is a curse adder, baby. This card is to give you a lot of curse tokens into the bag. So I don't think this card is used, excuse me, generally in curse decks, okay? Which is going to be crazy to say, because I just said this card is a curse adder. So wouldn't all curse decks want to run this? And then the answer to that is no. You want to, if you're a curse deck that is seeking to draw curses in the form of Cryptic Grimoire, or even, for example, Prismatic Spectacles, right? I think that this card is what you want. If you are a curse deck that is looking to use curses to pay costs in the form of storing up trouble, for example, this is not a card you want. But I think that is a very exciting thing for the state of the game for curses, that there are like different, there's now, curse decks are kind of multifaceted, which I think is really interesting. I'm going to give this motherfucker a 3 though. I think it's a good card. And then everything stays the same, and we are getting closer to being done. We're going to move on to the Rogue class next, and we're going to just keep this moving. But first, this break is brought to you by water. Water is really good and tasty. It keeps you hydrated, and it makes sure your brain doesn't shrivel up and die when you've been talking for 52 minutes straight. If you want some water, you can use my code www.water/PBG, well, water.com/PBG, and you will discover that you too can be hydrated and fresh. Selling out to big water. The water wars are coming. I'm going to try to become royalty now. Ah, crystal smooth. Okay. We're going to go to the British Bulldog here on the Rogue side. British Bulldog, 3 cost, 2 experience, uses 3 ammo, spend 1 ammo, fight. You may use foot instead of fist for this attack. You get +2 skill value. This attack deals +1 damage. Ignore the aloof keyword for this attack. As a reaction, after you fail a skill test while parlaying with an enemy, put British Bulldog into play from your hand. So I think I gave the level 0 as 3. And I'm going to give this one a 3.5, I think. It does ignore aloof. That is kind of sick, huh? That is kind of sick with it. Yeah, I'm going to give this thing a 3.5. Which does drop it down a full point for me. Literally, it's true. Well, I mean, there are aloof enemies in the final scenario, so it might have actually literally won you the scenario. I can't argue with that. On its own, man, no, that's even more spicy. All right, well, sorry, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Chat's giving it a 4.1, which I also think is fine. Like, I'm not gonna disagree with that. I just find myself trending downward with just my like rankings on power level. But again, I think there's nothing absurd about that. So what do I think has brought this card down for me? I think obviously in people like Winifred and Kimani love this card, right? Like, I think like it's one of those things, like anyone who can shoot with their foot is really nice. Like Alessandra as well, like Finn can like use it. But I think that it was less impactful than I thought it was going to be. I think it's a huge piece to Rogue's pool and a very nice thing. But I think ultimately at the same time, there's been times where I've been playing a combat Rogue and I look at this British Bulldog in my hand and then I look at like the Mauser I put into play. I look at like my skill cards in my hand, my events in my hand, and I was just like, this is enough. So it was one of those things where it changed from my main weapon, like this was the weapon I wanted in play and the weapon I wanted to kill with, to a weapon, which is actually really good because Guardians at this point have kind of shifted into I want a weapon. And it used to be for Rogues, which was like, I want the weapon. I just need the weapon in my deck. But now instead, Rogues are like, I want a weapon. So I just need to find one of them, right? And obviously that can change on the person that you're playing with. But I think overall, having like more options is really good. But I think just realistically for me, the option of the British Bulldog turned out to be less impactful than I thought it was going to be, but still being a really, really nice card. So I was bit a bit by the hype of reading the card, being like, this is exactly what the Rogues needed. This is going to unlock the combat part of the class. And then after playing with it, I was like, wait a minute, maybe the combat part of the class was actually already unlocked, right? And this just like provided more consistency, which then made it better, but it was still like there. Dirty Fighting already carrying. That's another big thing too. If this came out before Dirty Fighting, I think I would be more on it. But Dirty Fighting kind of makes like everything playable, right? I think Spirit Juice, you nailed that 100%. All right, let's go to Fake Credentials level 4. How strong is this card? 2 cost, 4 experience, takes up the hand slot. As an action, choose an enemy location and parlay, test book 0. This test gets +1 difficulty for each suspicion on fake credentials. If you succeed, discover 1 clear location or connecting location. If you do not succeed by 2 or more, place 1 resource on fake credentials as suspicion. If you fail, return fake credentials to your hand. So, I think fake credentials is a good card, but I think the reason why people weren't really playing it outside of Alessandra and then probably Trish generally was just that exactly, I was gonna that you stole the words right out of my mouth there, BK. That's better. So I'm gonna steal this and then pay you residuals, which it's hard to make sing, right? However, with that said, I do think 2 cards have been very helpful to making this card have more of a deck that you can build around, right? And those 2 cards have recently come out in Drowned City in the 4. Chat is all over this one. 3.4. Which is conveniently the exact score you gave the last one. That's wild, chat. Oh, I gave it a 2.5 last year. But in the form of String Along and Where's the Party, I think are 2 huge pieces to make this card just be better, right? And like more consistent and easier to make sing. Derby K, I'll send you some of my water.com profits when people start using my code. I think that's the only fair thing to do here. So you're now also you're on my side in the water wars coming up. Anyways, I gave this a 2.5 last year. And I think the point probably still stands, right? I think 2.5 is pretty fair. I don't think it's a 3. No, I need to see it in action with these new cards to confirm my theory, but I'm not going to bump it up a whole point for that. If I can remember what I said last year, is that it was probably pretty awkward to like constantly trigger. And while it's better, you're really only playing it in Trisha and Alessandra, which means that overall the card is just fine. I think that's pretty fair. I'm getting my water from Big Dagon and Mother Hydra. Gotta support mom and pop businesses. Hell yes, Astute. You are our independent shopper stan, and we love you for it. You are the future, and we love you for it. All right. Let's go on to Bewitching. So I finally played with this card. I finally played with it in a Keimani deck that I brought through Forgotten Age? It was just on the Patreon, and I completely forgot. So you should subscribe to the Patreon, and then let me know what it was. That would be super helpful. Anyways, Bewitching is a 3 experience, permanent exceptional, so it costs 6. As a reaction, and before you draw your opening hand, search your deck for up to 3 different trick cards and attach them face down to Bewitching. Shuffle your deck. As a reaction, when you engage an enemy, exhaust Bewitching, either draw 1 attached card, or search the top 9 cards of your deck for a copy of an attached card, draw it, and shuffle your deck. So, I put on my first Bewitching, and currently only Bewitching, I put a copy of Dirty Fighting, I put an Easy Mark, and I put a Breaking and Entering 2. And turns out, my assessment of this card afterwards, 4.5 from chat, is that my preference for what I want on my Bewitching is actually like enemy management. So like obviously being able to like this card really only costs 4 experience because you're saving on 1 copy of Dirty Fighting because you can just like, you don't even need to like get it. You know, like you don't even need to find it. I'll give this card a 4.5. I think chat's right. I think that's a good score for it. I mean, it turns out it's like stick to the plan, right? Being able to take the cards you want out of your deck is good. But unlike stick to the plan, I think that this actually has like a higher ceiling because stick to the plan is kind of just setup, but Bewitching but trick cards can kind of be like your deck's game plan, right? And that's really good for rogues, just to like have even more consistency. I think I want to try it in Rita as well. I might. Eric and I are doing Feast of Hemlock Vale, and I'm playing Rita in that campaign. Because I figured that would be pretty good against those things that you need to evade that only take damage 1 at a time. So, kind of my thought process there. But I think Bewitching might go in there. We'll do some Dirty Fighting business. I've always wanted to play like Baseball Bat Rita, so this might be the time to do it. Could be fun. Alright. Next up, what makes a card a 5 for you? We'll probably see a 5 in here, but my idea for 5 is like a card that is very powerful, changes the game in your favor immediately, like almost immediately when you play it, and is ubiquitous that everyone would want to run it, is kind of like the thing. A 5. So notably, I gave Dirty Deeds a 5 last year, because I think this card, I thought that card then was that good. But let's talk about this card now, and where it compares to me last year. Because you can actually see last year, I did give Dirty Deeds 3 a 5. So, Dirty Deeds, 3 experience, it's a double. It's just a cost to play Dirty Deeds, spend an action. Search your deck for an illicit asset and play it, paying its cost. Then you may resolve an action or lightning bolt ability on that asset, ignoring all costs, including its action cost, if any. Playing this card does not provoke attacks of opportunity. Dude, this card is very good. I don't know if it's 5 good. I think I've come to like Dirty Deeds over Underworld Market, which is insane to me to type out. No, you're 100% right, there, BK. You're 100% right. This is so Underworld Market, I'm not going to say is a bad card. I think it's a very good card. I think Underworld Market is a very good card. But if you're looking for just any gun, Underworld Market is better. If you're looking for a gun, this card is, or like the gun, this card is unstoppable. And if you're looking for other illicit things, like that's also, chat's giving it a 3.5. Dirty deeds and they're done dirt cheap. And also, this card is insane value. I've included it in a lot of rogue decks, and it's such a good card. It's so good. Dude, oh man. I'm giving it a 5. I'm standing by it. I'm doing it. I think this card is incredibly powerful, and I think it's criminally underplayed. I think it's that good. So every time I read it, right? Every time I read this card, I'm like, oh yeah, it's literally perfect. Right? Like, so, if you think about it, yeah, it's not just guns either, right? It's any illicit thing. But I'm going to talk about it in context from the guns because it's easiest to see the value from that. But it not being guns, just any illicit asset is very, very good. But all this card really is it adds... The only thing that this card does, apart from the 3 experience, because it's an insane tutor card, it's just a 1 resource tax on your weapon. Because you might be thinking, no, but it also costs 2 actions, Justin. No, because you're actually like getting, I would say, 3 actions out of this card, right? And they're all good actions, like incredibly efficient. So the first action is search your deck for an illicit asset. That's a card that people would play an action for. The second one is playing the actual asset. The third one is shooting that asset, and you ignore all costs, so you also do not spend the ammo. So you're basically just getting a free shot on that weapon or that illicit thing you're doing. And then if you already have your gun in play, you can find another gun or alternatively another illicit asset that you can take advantage of. And I'm going to shout this out to all of you fence lovers. You can make this thing fast. And then it just becomes even sweeter. I think this card is very good. And I agree. I think it is better than Underworld Market by, in my opinion, 2 to 3 points. All 5 fence lovers in the world? No, trust me. There's a lot of fence lovers. Anytime Bryn shit talks fence, they come out of the fence work and they're like, and you know what? They're allowed to love it. I'm not here to judge. That was the Drowned City ranking, Justin. This new Hemlock Vale, I'm more chill. I'm happy, you know? All right. I love fence, but it's my Underworld Market. Yeah. They haven't found it yet. All right, let's go to Snitch. Alright, 1 cost, 2 experience, fast. Play after you succeed a skill test while parlaying. Discover 2 total clues from among your location and connecting locations. Yo, turns out this card's pretty good. Right? Just like getting a free 2 clues while parlaying is really good. And then like being able to play it with Eldritch Tongue also turned out to be really good. I think I'm going to give it like a... Interesting. Reads like a 4.5, plays like a 3. That's very interesting. I guess it's one of those things where I'm sticking with Pilfer. Pilfer is very good. Pilfer is very good. But I mean, like, in all fairness, in my humble opinion, chat's giving it a 3.8. I view Pilfer and Snitch as 2 different decks. Like, I think they're both good in the decks that you're wanting to build towards, but I can definitely see like how if your style leans towards more Pilfer, Snitch I think requires you to kind of go all in on parlay to really like have it do its thing. Where a lot of your so like to me Snitch really shines when you're using it as like clues on top of your enemy management as opposed to this being your plan to get clues, if that makes sense. And Pilfer is very much like my plan is to get clues. Anyways, I'm going to give this a 3.5. I think it's good. I'm going to put it there. Yeah, so because I actually think that that Snitch does better in when you are enemy management parlay as opposed to like Clover parlay. This is a great Bewitching card. It would be a great Bewitching card. All right, speaking of a great Bewitching card, let's talk about Stir the Pot. 3 cost, 5 experience, parlay. Choose an enemy at your location and test book X, where X is the chosen enemy's combined damage and horror values. If you succeed, deal X damage to each enemy at your location. As this effect resolves, you may disengage from each enemy and move to a connecting location. So, I'm gonna do vague spoilers for Hemlock Vale. Do you think this costs so much because of the bear in Longest Night? And that was like what they used to like clear out a bunch of stuff? It was my first thought when I saw the bear. Yeah, I could see that being the case, huh? Let's see what chat's giving it. Chat gave it a 2.3. I'm going to give it a 1.5 for sure. I can't see myself ever playing it, but I can see like someone else pulling it out of the binder. And then I'm like, okay. And then like it'll do something. And I was like, that was neat. But then it's like, so the fucked up thing is that it's going to deal 2 damage. Right? Most commonly. Like it might deal 3. It might. But most commonly, this fucking thing is going to deal 2 damage. And then it's like, oh, I spent 5 XP for like nothing. And the worst thing is you're also going to succeed by 2. So you would have moved anyway. I just don't think it does enough to differentiate from the level 0 to make it that much better. So I'm going to give this one 1.5. I think it's pretty bad. Vamp. Level 3. Parlay. Choose an enemy location and any number of skills, one at a time in any order. Test each chosen skill 2. For each test you succeeded, if it was Brain, remove 1 doom from that enemy. Book, discover 1 clue at that enemy's location. Agility, automatically evade that enemy, move it to a connecting location if it is non-elite. Fist, deal 2 damage to that enemy. I think this card's pretty bad, actually. I think I'm going to give it a 2. The first 2 of the day, and a big drop for me. I gave it a 3.5 last year. So I think what happened was just, it's that the card promises a lot, and then it just doesn't end up usually getting 3 XP worth of value. And then it's also coupled with the fact that, like, in order to truly get that value, you need, like, other combo pieces to make it work. Just giving that a 3. And I think that it just ends up being, like, slightly more awkward than you want your 3 XP cards to be. I've never been impressed by Vamp. I've never been impressed by someone playing Vamp. I think overall the card actually is a lot clunkier than it seems. Okay, on to the Mystics and Survivors. We are into the last big run here, and let's start with the Rod of Carnagos, level 2. Alright. Lightning Bolt. Choose a non-elite enemy at any location and exhaust Rod of Carnagos. Reveal 5 random Chaos tokens in the Chaos bag. For each curse token revealed, you may search your bonded cards for a Rot event and attach it to that enemy. I am going to be discussing this card without the context of the exploit. And I still feel like exploit's the wrong word currently, because it is... the designers have said right now it's fine, so it's... But exploit is just like the best word, because you're kind of exploiting the card in a way that feels incorrect. I'm going to be talking about it just purely on the power of the card in terms of enemy management. And I think that this is very, very good enemy management, because it's easy to trigger in a curse deck. It's very dependent because you get the ones you want and you're able to adapt to the situation depending on how you see things are. And it turns out that chat's giving this MF a 4.5. And it turns out that sometimes just locking an enemy on the board is the best removal. I'm going to go as far to say, I'm going to say this right now, and you can quote me on this. I think that this card, in the form of enemy removal, is stronger than the Carnivorous Strain. Because it's 2 experience less, and it's like just as, if not more efficient, and you can also change up the value that you get from things, which is just really, really good. I'm going to give it a 4.5. Chat, we tied. We both matched on that one. Nice job. So I went up a bit, you went down a little bit, but we settled on the same sort of score. All right. Let's talk about the Key of Solomon. This is a fucked up card. And I saw my score for it last year, and that was a little bit crazy. Anyways, Key of Solomon, 2 cost, 4 experience. Takes up the hand slot as a lightning bolt. If there are more blessed than cursed tokens in the chaos bag, remove 1 blessed token in the chaos bag and exhaust the Key of Solomon. Heal up to 2 damage under horror from an investigator or ally asset at your location. As a lightning bolt, if there are more cursed tokens than blessed tokens in the chaos bag, remove 1 cursed token from the chaos bag and exhaust the Key of Solomon, gain 2 resources. So I'm pretty sure if I have to like rationalize my 3.5 rating, I probably said something along the lines of this card is very good, but I imagine it's going to be locked into just Bless and Cursed and Paradox decks. And I think in theory, the idea of that holds true. And then you sometimes realize that theories are just theories. And then in practice, you know, sometimes things kind of just change because of that. And chat went crazy for this one with a 4.7. So I think this card has the most insane healing that I've ever seen in my life. And if you are playing a Bless build, it's free. So I'm going to talk about this card like actually for the Bless one, right? And like you can just like do it. You can just do it. You get like some like, if you can play Ancestral Token, you're fine. If you can play like just any sort of like drip Bless creation, like you can do a lot with this. I think I am going to give it a 5. I think it turned out to be, for my money, the strongest card from the set. And I think it pushes out my theory when I gave it this 3.5, which was that's you only play it in Bless and Curse decks. And while I think it's like Apex in those decks, I think this card is actually just like the numbers on it are so good that you can just play this card in a Mystic deck and then like just play a few Bless and Curse things and not care about it beyond just value, which is kind of disgusting. All right, another great Mystic card in the form of Olive McBride 2. 2 cost, 2 experience. She soaks for 1 and 3, by the way. As a reaction, when you reveal a Chaos token, exhaust Olive McBride. Reveal 4 Chaos tokens instead of 1. Choose 2 of those tokens to resolve and ignore the rest. I've made a lot of videos about Olive. I did say that Olive was going to be incredibly impactful, and just the idea of changing from 3 and choose 2 to 4 and choose 2 would be huge for her consistency, and it turns out to be very, very true. I think overall, Olive McBride was the biggest game changer from Hemlock Vale. She turned out to be a very, very good card and very good at what she does. I'm going to give her a 4.5. Oh, she's even better than I thought from last year. I was going to give her, if I gave her a 4 last year. I think a 4.5 is pretty reasonable. The card's insane. Three, 1, 2. And chat gave her a 3.9. So chat went down on her, I went up on her. That was horrible phrasing, but you know, we in chat, we double teamed Olive today, so that's great news. But yeah, I just think that she's very powerful, and she really enables token manipulation in a way that was absolutely disgusting. All right, Call the Beyond. Do you want to know the fucked up thing about this card? It's not a double, but it has like double level value in it. When I see this card, I always think of it as the like other double from this one, but then I realize the actual double is the bad one. 0 cost, 2 experience. Ritual Curse. This is a cost to play Call the Beyond. Add 3 curse tokens to the Chaos Bag. Choose an asset you control with uses charges or uses secrets. Replenish all of that asset's charges or secrets. Then you may resolve an action or lightning bolt ability on that asset without paying its action cost, if any. This is insane charge generation. And it was easily the strongest charge generation until we saw Enraptured 2 just come out. I think Enraptured 2 is pretty comparable unless you're doing Practice Makes Perfect or Amanda stuff. But this is very good, and I actually play it in pretty much all of my... in pretty much all of my standalone Mystic decks, I'm playing this card. It's just very good. I'm going to give it a 4. I'm going to just like... I think it's very good. So we're going to put it up here. So what we're learning is that Mystic got really powerful cards this cycle, huh? Like, if we just look at, like, what's so far the 4 Mystic cards we talked about, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? That's really impressive for Mystics. Well, the power is certainly going to continue, right? Ethereal Form, 2 cost, 2 experience, evade. Add your brain value to your skill value for this evasion attempt. If you succeed, disengage from each other engaged enemy engaged with you, and for the remainder of the round, you are ethereal. Enemies cannot engage or be engaged with you. You cannot attack or deal damage to enemies. If a symbol is revealed during this evasion attempt, return Ethereal Form to your hand at the end of your turn. Unfortunately, this one's here too. I'm going to give it a 2. So I'm okay with evasion assets. I don't think evasion only events are impactful enough to impact the game, right? Especially ones that don't actually exhaust enemies or don't freeze enemies. But I do think that there's a lot of good asset-based evasion. That evasion is... Chad, you guys, 5 votes for a 2. There was nothing else. I don't even need to go to the part of the spreadsheet that people hate. But yeah, I think like evasion events need like more to them. Or like, for example, Bum's Rush, Blinding Light, and like, even though it isn't an evasion event, like breaking and entering, right? Like, you need something else to make it like worth the slot in your deck. And this ain't it. And this also ain't it. All right, was I an idiot last year? Did I rate this high? I'm probably gonna give it a 2, but let's read it. 1 cost, 3 experience. Additional cost to play Ethereal Weaving. Spend an action. Reveal up to 3 different spell events from your hand, 1 at a time. Play each revealed event, reducing its cost by 1. While resolving each of these events, you get +2 skill value. So I think the value of this card is there, and you can see it, but it's so awkward and hard to actually make work. So, I played it, and I actually did get 3 different spells, and it reduced it, but the work wasn't really worth 3 XP, so I'm going to give it a 2. I gave it a 2 last year. Let's go! Pass Justin, you genius! Oh, I'd be so embarrassed. I was like, a 3? No, 2 is right. Yeah, the card's just like super awkward to get the full value from, and like if you're paying 3 experience, you want to get like full value, or even like realistically like 60% value. All right. Jack gave it a 2.1. All right. Let's move on to... I went the wrong way. To read the signs. So read the signs, 2 cost, 2 experience, investigate, add your brain value to your skill value for this investigation. You may ignore any effect or keyword on your location which will trigger during this investigation. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at this location. If a symbol was revealed during this investigation, return, read the signs to your hand at the end of your turn. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think the effect's good. I think it becomes better when you build around it in other ways. But I think overall, we know that, like, read the signs is good. I'd probably give Read the Signs like a... So, I'd give Read the Signs a 3.5, and I don't think the upgrades are actually, like, that much better, because if you think about it, they only become better when you build, like, the combo around them, and then they're really good, right? But if you think about all the pieces that you need in order to make the combo actually function, you need economy, and you need token manipulation. So... is it really worth it in the long term is a great experiment to have with it. Like, is it really increasing the power of it to do that? Chad gave it a 3.9, which I think is the exact score you gave it last year. That's crazy! Holy shoot! And I think realistically, I think that Read the Signs is... fine. I mean, the deck you build around it with it, it's really nice in there. But again, I think that's just like when I did my Kohaku deck and I put like Read the Signs, Ancient Covenant, my my Book of Living Myths, my Jewel of Aureolus, my Living Ink, all these things came together to then loot my Read the Signs. But then you're just like, wait a minute. Is Read the Signs doing that, or is the combo doing that? So that's why I think these ones are about on par with the level 0 version. Speaking of par, how's Hank Sampson doing? All right, Seal the Elders. 0 cost, 5 experience, fast. Play after a skill test your location ends in which at least 2 curse or 2 bless tokens were revealed. If 2 curse tokens revealed, search your bonded cards for Servant of Brass and put into play. If 2 bless tokens revealed, search your bonded cards for Keeper of the Key and put into play. If 2 bless tokens and 2 curse tokens revealed, do both instead. Remove Seal of the Elders from the game. So we also have Keeper of the Key. These guys have 4 horror. And when a blessed token is revealed during a skill test, you can deal a horror to it to discover 1 clue your location, and when it would leave play, set it aside. And Servant of Brass turns out to be the same for curse tokens, but it's deal 2 damage to an enemy at your location. So, this was one of the cards that I included in my recent list video. At this point now, it's probably over a month old. Where it was a card that I was wrong about, because I was like, there's no way this card is going to trigger well, let alone actually get both of them into play. But it turns out, unlike Evanescent Ascension for some reason, it is possible to do. Chat's given this a 3 this year. Sorry, a 3.1. And not only is it possible to do, it's actually possible to get, like, both multiple times. Because Travis did. Because Mystics have token manipulation, and Mystics have ways to, like, play Paradoxical where they want to pull all of these. And the thing with Miracle Wish and Evanescent Ascension is that ultimately, your Favor of the Sun is much better spent in other ways. And also, the thing that really got me as well is that with these cards, you're actually even fine with just hitting one of them. Like, it's not, excuse me, sorry. You want to hit two, but if you just hit one of them and you put into play, the value that it gives you is fine. Like, it's enough for you to, like, be satisfied with the card. You obviously want to hit two. Like, I don't think the card's great. I'm going to give it a 3. But as you see, I gave it a 2 last year, so I'm higher on the card than I definitely was before. So the thing we're learning is that I think Mystics might be the winner of the set. They got a lot of good shit. Holy cow. And then let's go to Spectral Razor. Two cost, 2 experience, fight. Add your brain value to your skill value for this attack. Immediately before this attack, you may engage the attacked enemy. This attack deals +1 damage, +2 damage instead if the enemy is not elite. If a symbol is revealed during this attack, return Spectral Razor to your hand at the end of your turn. So I think at the level 0 version, Spectral Razor is like a point above Read the Signs, right? Like, it's like, if Read the Signs is a 3.5, Spectral Razor is a 4. I don't think that necessarily translates into the upgraded versions. However, let's talk about this from the perspective of, if I just randomly reveal a token, which one would I rather have come back to my hand? So if I randomly reveal a symbol token, if I could return Read the Signs 2 or Spectral Razor 2 to my hand, I think I want Spectral Razor. So I am going to make it up higher. I am going to put it up to 2. I'm going to put it up to 4. I convinced myself on that. I'm going to put that one up to a 4. And chat agrees, apparently. Wow, that's a lot of 4s. 4.3. Big jump from chat on that one. 0.7 points. Holy cow. I support it, I support you, and I support everything you dream to be. Alright, let's go to Mesmeric Influence. One experience. While this card is committed to a skill test, the performing investigator may ignore all keyword or location effects that would trigger during this test. I think this card is a perfect... There's not really a place for this card, right? I'm going to put it in 2. I gave it a 3 last year. I think that's kind of crazy. I never seen anyone play this card. I don't know why. I don't know why I gave it a 3, why I would have given it a 3. Maybe I was like, the effect is good, the icons are good, but it doesn't actually do anything, right? So why would it have gotten a 3? I was thinking like maybe a 2.5, but then I'm like, even if I called this, like, because I think this card is fine, but I do think that it's ultimately leaning closer to bad than it is good, because you feel like someone would have played it by now. Like, you'd only play it if you know a location or a symbol is extra scary. But it wouldn't trigger on a skill. Or, I mean, sorry, on a symbol, right? Like, it doesn't even do anything for symbols. Which makes it even more situational, right? Like, it's nice for, like, retaliate. It does less than I thought. Like, that's always the worst thing, huh? But yeah. No, like, it's just way too situational. So I'm gonna give it a 2. I mean, I like this design because stuff like this could eventually become relevant. Especially with, like, Astronomical Atlas in the Legacy environment. But just, like, I look at this card and I'm like, this probably could have been a level 0 card. You know what helps against Retaliate? Committing more than a single wild to your test. Hey now, I'm a Mystic, so this is like 2. This is an unexpected courage because I'm using my brand of Cthugha. Thank you very much. I am a Mystic. Need I remind you? But you're 100% right. It's bad. And yeah, you know what also helps? Yeah, do you know what also helps Retaliate? Stop against Retaliate? Yeah, just passing tests and having Soak. Like using your 1 experience for pretty much anything fucking else, right? Alright. Oh boy! I haven't lost my voice, so that's good. I've gotten better since Tuesday, so that's nice. Fire Axe. 1 cost, 2 experience, fast. As an action, fight. If you have no resources in your resource pool, this attack deals +1 damage. As a lightning bolt during an attack, using Fire Axe, spend 1 resource to get +2 fist for this skill test. Limit 3 times per attack. Alright, I'm going to be real with all of you. When this card came out, I was like, why the hell does this matter? It's only fast? That's garbage. And then I played a game and I had a level 0 Fire Axe in my hand and my hatchet was attached to something else and I said, fuck, I wish this card was fast. So, with that said, it turned out to be more relevant than I thought. I still think the card is just going to get a 3 from me, but still. It did turn out that the fast was actually a lot more relevant than I think most people gave credit for, myself included. 2.7 from chat. Okay, no comment. All right. Hatchet, 2 costs, 1 experience, takes up the hand slot. Fight. Add your foot value to skill value for this attack. This attack does +1 damage. Attack defeats an enemy. Discard Hatchet. Otherwise, lose control of Hatchet and attach to the attacked enemy. Attached enemy gains as a reaction. When attached enemy is defeated, take control of Hatchet. Any investigator at Hatchet's location may trigger this ability. So this card's fun. I think it's a fun weapon to play with. I think it's a good weapon. I think that it's an awkward weapon, but I think for survivors to have awkward weapons, that's a lot better than them just having stuff like Fire Extinguisher, right? Which is just like a machete. So I enjoy having survivors having more options. In addition, there's a lot of cool things you can do with it in terms of like long shot and things like that, where you can like stack the damage in an appealing way. I think it's a cool card. I think it's a good card. Let's see what chat gives it. I'm probably going to give it a 3.5, but let's see what chat gives it. Chat gave it a 3.7. Chat went way up on that. A whole half point. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think that's good. I think that's a good spot for it. Keeping it from 4 is just like the slightly awkward gameplay loop that can exist with it. But at the same time, I think it's still just a good weapon to play with, and I've never been upset when I've played a Hatchet or seen someone play a Hatchet. All right, let's keep this moving with upgraded Mariner's Compass. Two cost, 2 experience. As an action, exhaust Mariner's Compass, investigate. If you fail, ready Mariner's Compass. If you succeed and have no resources in your resource pool, discover 1 additional clue at your location. As a lightning bolt during an investigation using Mariner's Compass, spend 1 resource. You get +1 book for this skill test, limit 3 times per investigation. So I think this card's fine. I'm probably going to give it a 3. Sorry, wrong page. I'm going to give this card a 3. I think it's a good potential tool that you can use for getting clues, but I think this card has an issue that I do think that Nautical Compass is going to run into similarly after a year of play, is my hunch. I think Nautical charts are good. Did I call it Nautical Compass? I think Nautical charts are good cards. But the issue that this card often runs into, which I gave it a 3.6, by the way. The issue that this card often runs into is that unless you're playing a Darkhorse deck, generally the cards you put into your deck and the cards that are in your hand are stronger if they are played, as opposed to just spending your resources only on Mariner's Compass, right? Yes, you can like build your deck around it, but then I think you're becoming like a Darkhorse or like a zero cost deck. And I think the same thing is going to hold true with Nautical charts, where unless you're playing a discard deck, your resources, this time in the form of cards, are going to just generally be better to use for like winning the game. And I know you might be saying, but clues win you the game, but you know what also wins you the games? Like turning that card that... If all of your cards in your deck get you one clue, then like I'm looking at something like Look What I Found, and I'm like, that is 2 clues, so that math means that the 1 clue from Nautical charts is actually worse. And I think unless you're doing things like discarding a Winging It, an improvised weapon, a Glimmer of Hope, you are not going to be like taking advantage of the cards in your deck. And my point still stands. I think that in the long term, Nautical charts, like Mariner's Compass, who exists in Darkhorse, Nautical charts is going to exist mostly in discard decks. That's my theory. If it proves to be true, who knows? We have to see after a year of practice. But I think my thoughts on the Mariner's Compass is accurate for a year of play. But I mean, I had some groundwork for a level 0 Mariner's Compass for a while, but I think the upgrade's nice. It's a good upgrade. All right, Token of Faith, level 3. 2 cost, 3 experience is an accessory. It's an accessory slot, and as a reaction, after a skill test ends in which 1 or more curse or autofill tokens are revealed, exhaust Token of Faith. Add that many blessed tokens to the Chaos Bag. If the skill test failed after resolving all effects on the failed test, the performing investigator may attempt that test again, max once per test. The security that this card provides is actually really nice in terms of having some idea where it's like the first auto fail doesn't matter, right? Each turn. So we have like 1 auto fail that we can just be like, unless it has retaliate, there's like literally no downside. And I think that's a nice part of this card. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think it is a very good card. And I think it has a nice place even outside of curse decks. And I agree. I think that like it reads like the hype around this card is pretty high. Even I was like, yeah, this card's going to be pretty sick. I give it a 3. But as you can see, chat was super hyped for this card. They gave it a 4.7. Let's see what they gave it this year. But it is one of those things where I think like it's good, but then how much chat ended up falling to a 3.5. How much does it actually like do for you? And I think the answer is probably just like not as much as the card reads like it does, right? But I still think it's a good card. 3.5. Easy. Devil also turned out to be a pretty cool card, and I think was better than I thought it was going to be, because I am an idiot. I'm an idiot. All right, let me read Devil, and then I'll talk about why I'm an idiot. 1 cost, 2 experience, soaks 3 damage, takes up the ally slot. Force, when your turn begins, move 1 damage from your investigator to Devil. When Devil is defeated, deal 2 damage to each enemy and investigator at your location. So when I was analyzing this card, and I don't know if I had this when I did my initial rating for it, but it wasn't until I saw Eric play it, and like Eric had 1 damage on them, and then Eric moved that 1 damage to Devil, and then I was like, wait a minute. You're not always gonna have damage on you. For some reason, I merged Devil into this concept that it's only gonna last 3 turns. But then I realized, no, you dummy, that's not how that shit works. Chat's giving it a 3.2. It's just, this guy can also just be like regular soak for you as well. I think he's probably still a 3 after all that's said, but I still think the guy's pretty sick. He was better than I thought, so he's trending closer to a 3.5, but I think I'm going to give him a 3. He's kind of still just like there, but card isn't bad. Speaking of cards that aren't bad, we got Hunting Jacket. I think this was a very surprising card for a lot of people. It turned out to be a very good card and also just really good in survivors for giving them resources. Not actually card draw. I've seen people say that this is card draw. This is not card draw. While yes, you are drawing cards, you've also effectively lost cards. So it's not actually real. Additionally, actually, Travis and I were talking about this on Wednesday, about the Hunting Jacket. I think that this card is good, but is also more deck dependent than it seems to be. And I think that it's one of those things that you want to be able to be scavenging this back, or alternatively have some way to recur it in the form of Will York and Tommy Muldoon. Like, for example, I can't imagine seeing myself play this in, like, Daniela, right? Chat's giving it a 3.8. So I think that's like one of those things where I think the card's good, but you need to have, like, you want the money, so like this is also really good in like a, gotta just adjust my camera, it's coming a bit bright. You also need to like be like a Darkhorse deck, I think takes advantage of it very well. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that this is not actually card draw, so you're like layawaying those cards for resources in the future. But I still think it's a good card. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Which is what I gave it last year too. Okay, survival technique. I got a bone to pick with you, but I'm not upset about this. So seems to be a trend, unfortunately, with email rulings that have ruled kind of in favor of things for the players, even if they don't really make sense or work in the framework of what the card is intended. And I think survival technique was an example of the opposite of that. So survival technique, some people theorized, and actually in the video where I did my first Hemlock Vale, let me read the card. Lightning Bolt. Choose a card you own that is attached to your location, exhaust survival technique, add that card to your hand. Lightning Bolt during a skill test on a location or on a treachery attached to your location, exhaust survival technique, get +2 skill value for this test, 2 cost, 2 experience. When this card was first in the discussion, a lot of people were saying, hey, we can use this for basic investigates. And that kind of just became like, oh, this is what you can do. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, right? So I was like, okay, so that's what I'm going to do with this. But then the email ruling said, no, skill tests are not on your location, they're at your location, like basic investigates, which I think is ultimately the correct rule. And I'm glad, so that was my lead in. I'm glad that this one went against the players for that kind of thing, because I do think that this is better for the card to be doing that. Now, survival technique is an interesting card beyond just the whole, we're going to ignore that because the investigating thing doesn't matter anymore. But survival technique, I think, is an interesting card because it's its own archetype, and there hasn't really been a much support for the archetype, but I think the archetype is really fun. I think the card's good. I'm going to give it a 3. I think it does show up well in those decks that want it. And I'll never forget, I was playing War of the... Oh, no, I was playing Blob. I actually might run this deck back next week because I really enjoyed it. But I was Parallel Ashcan Pete, and I had Survival Technique and Track Shoes in play, and I would move into a location, and that someone used my Shortcut 2 on. I would pick up that Shortcut 2 during the test window on the Track Shoes, and then move to another location, and then drop that Shortcut down for somebody there. I think that Survival Technique is a really cool design, and I just want to see more support for it so the archetype can be a little bit more real. But I think the card is still good. All right, on to Darkhorse 5. Darkhorse 5. 5 experience, limit 1 per deck. During the upkeep phase, you may choose not to gain resources. While you have no resources in your resource pool, you get +1 to all your stats. I'm going to give Darkhorse 5 a 3.5. Which is the exact score I gave it last year. But actually, this is kind of crazy. That's fucked up, chat. You can tell I play Survivor. All my Survivor cards have actually been the exact same ranking from last year. Time Roller, how's it going? That's crazy. Oh, I have to go with 3 here. Gotta respect when a card exists, only 2 versions, level 0 and level 5. Yeah, that's how you know you're cool. So I think the Darkhorse 5 is a good card, obviously for the Darkhorse build, because you don't need to find it now. However, with that said, I think the problem with Darkhorse 5 is that Darkhorse is a lot less good now than it was back then. There's just better things to do with your money than get +1 to all your stats, right? However squared, I do think that Darkhorse is going to see a little bit of a resurgence in the current environment when the card pool becomes smaller, because that was when Darkhorse was pretty playable, when there was that kind of flex style play, and I think that Survivor is going to fall into that again as long as this Darkhorse package remains in current. And this is why I'm actually going to start to recording some theory crafting for current in the near future, just in anticipation of what's going to be coming there. It's going to be interesting to see what it does for discussion and things going forward with everything. How much value do you need to get out of Darkhorse 5 to be worth it? Well, you need to be a Darkhorse deck. So I think your question is actually the not correct question. The question is, are you a Darkhorse deck? In which case, yeah, you're going to want Darkhorse 5. If you are not a Darkhorse deck, do not waste your 5 experience on this card. It won't be worth it. Because, like, odds are, the other stuff in your deck is going to be better spent spending money. I'll see you all at the card burning ceremony. Hell yeah. Can't wait to put my practice makes perfects on the fire. Heads up, do not burn your cards. You can still play Legacy. We are going to be playing both Legacy and Current. Believe you me, we're going to be switching between the two, and it's going to be fun to have some actual formats. I'm burning my gym. I'm going to roll my gym up with some weed and smoke it. Get high on gym supply. Let's go. All right, let's keep this going. Keep Faith. 0 cost, 2 experience, fast play during any Lightning Bolt window, add 4 Blessed tokens to the Chaos Bag. This is a really nice piece in Blessed decks. I'm going to give it a 3. I would give regular Keep Faith a 2.5. But I think Keep Faith 2 is a really good card. I think it's a very, very nice card. And it's one of those things where when you upgrade into it, you notice, holy hell, my Bless deck has suddenly gotten so much better. And you're like, well, I wonder why that is. And the odds are it's just because Keep Faith being free, it lowers your curve. And that's surprisingly really big. Yeah, you're never excited to upgrade your Keep Faiths. But then you, like, put it into your deck and you play with it and you're like, wait a minute. Suddenly I feel so much better about things. And that's a powerful notion for a card to have. 3.5 from chat. Chat, I'm so excited. We're so close to seeing the difference between the 2 years. It's going to be so cool. Holy shoot, I have dropped down a lot. I mean, so have you, chat. So have you. Wow. I mean, we still have a few more cards to go through here, but... It's like early card design where upgrades only lowered resource cost. I do like that they still do that. I do still like that they do that. It's a preference for me. Just keep it simple and not add too much baggage. All right, we got Persistence, with good old Honk Samson working in the field. All right. Persistence, 1 experience skill, innate. You may commit Persistence to a skill test from your discard pile. If you do, shuffle it into your deck after this test ends. It's fine. I'm gonna go with a 2.5. It gets better in other decks. It's also probably going to see a little bit of a boost in Gift of Nodens decks coming up, right? Because you can, like, shuffle your deck. However, there's also something to be said for the idea of the Gift of Nodens you don't want to shuffle, because, like, let's just say you put, like, 12 of your best skills on the bottom of your deck. And then, like, you could shuffle and, like, make those skills broken up. Or at a certain point, you can just draw your 12 best skills and then, like, repeat. And that seems really good. That's going to be a 3. I can already tell. So I'm going to give it a 2.5. Chat's going to give it a 3. Whoa, chat gave it a 4 the first time? They loved it. They're my kind of people. They love boring skill cards. You love it. All right, and then we're gonna go to a Providential. I think I'm gonna give this card a 2. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's good. It has great icons. It's cheap in Survivor. I don't know when you'd want to play it, but I can definitely see why this leaves the binder. So, commits for a while to Fist and a Brain. If the seal test is successful, add 1 Blessed Tongue to the cast bag for each damage or horror on you, whichever is less. Like, it's not good, but it's not bad. So it fits into that 2.0 fine, but leans more towards bad. But I already know when I would play it. I've played it in Silas, and it actually, like, put in, like, 3 Blessed Tokens on average. Because you just don't play it until you have, like, a good number on you. Or, like, in Kelvin Wright, it's also pretty good. Bless Kelvin. I'm going to give it a 2, though. Whoa, were all my experience cards stayed the exact same. I mean, pretty good power level for them. Alright. So chat's going to go a bit under 2 for here. It's going to be like a 1.8, a 2.8. Or 1.8, sorry. I think that's fair. 1.8 seems pretty reasonable. Alright, bad news, chat. We only have 3 cards left, and then our adventure is over. And I unfortunately put Twilight Diadem here when I dragged everything over, and I can't get rid of it. So just pretend it's not here, okay? Just pretend this shit isn't here. It's not real. I'm not going to put it in the same one as Broken Diadem. But yeah. The adventure's almost over. But you know what that means, chat? I get to eat lunch. And we love eating lunch. So let's move on to our 3 neutral cards. starting with Broken Diadem. Alright, 1 cost, 5 experience, limit 1 per deck, limit 1 mask per investigator. As a reaction, after skill test, your location ends in which both a bless and curse token revealed, place 1 resource on this card as an offering. Then if there are 3 offerings on this card, search your bonding cards for Twilight Diadem and swap it with this card, moving all offerings from this card to Twilight Diadem. Twilight Diadem is limit 1 mask per investigator still. As a reaction, when either a blessed or curse token is revealed during a skill test, spend 1 offering and exhaust this card. Treat the revealed token as a Elder Sign instead, return it to the Chaos Bag. Then if it has no offerings, swap your bonded cards for Broken Diadem and swap it with this card. So a little bit unfortunate for this card, where I was about to see it in action. Daniel was going to play it in our Paradoxical run on his channel, Quick Learner, which you should definitely check out. And then we died in the Asylum. And we never got to see it trigger once. I think ultimately this card is still a good payoff for Paradoxical. I just think there's a lot of issues with Paradoxical that actually stems from the Mystic side of things, at least in 2 players. I think Paradoxical is a bit better in like 3 players. I still think the card is fine though. I don't think it's bad. Like, I think it's like perfectly fine. I haven't seen it in action, so I don't know. I'm going to give it a 2.5. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Occult Reliquary. What I'm hearing is that every deck this card has been played in has been killed. That's a bad sign. I think that's a good old Mystic problem for sure, I think. I think it's a Paradoxical problem. I think Paradoxical is a very weak archetype. Anyways, Occult Reliquary, 3 experience, permanent limit 1 per deck. You have 1 additional hand, accessory, arcane slot, which can only be used to hold blessed or cursed asset. It's a good card. I think I'm gonna give it a 4. Because you're able to also like swap when you put things into play. That's really good. Yeah, I think it's a banger card. I do wish it had some sort of downside because, again, it's a pact that doesn't really feel like a pact. As Astute said in chat, the pactless pack. Alright. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4. And then we have 2 5s, giving it to a 3.8, which is very close to what you guys had last year with 3.9. That is funny. So you've heard from multiple people where it went wrong playing the Diadem? I can see it, to be honest. I remember when we were, because when it went south with Daniel and I's run, and I said, he was like, what do you think happened? And I was like, we were just 2 Mystics in 2-player, which is a very bad combination because they're so fragile. And you might be thinking, as like the commenter who recently said, why would you describe Mystics as fragile? They control the Mythos deck. And then my response to that is, explain to me the dissonance where Mystics are all-powerful treachery handlers, and then they crumble when they draw their 3rd enemy, right? And they don't crumble all the time. That isn't like an absolute, right? But it is kind of the case for Mystics. And that's why I think that the Diadem is on the weaker side, because like the Mystics Paradoxical, it doesn't really like pay off. And in order to get there, you have to put experience into it. Occult Reliquary is really good though. It's just like slots, and like that's really nice if you're playing Blessed Curse. Also, by the way, that's Randall Tillinghast, just so everybody knows. That's our good friend Randall Tillinghast. All right. Last card, and are we gonna go out with a bang and or whimper? Dawnstar, one experience, one cost event, fast. Play after revealing chaos tokens during a skill test at your location. Ignore the modifiers of each curse token revealed during this test. For each curse token ignored, deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location. So I do think this card is good, but ironically, for the reasons why I've said in the past that a lot of cards are bad. And it's because you don't need to use this card to its full potential. This card really has 2 modes, right? One of it is damage, right? The other is curse mitigation. And sometimes they sing a perfect song together, but then other times they just kind of look at each other and go, hey brother, you cool if I just do my own thing? And it's like, no problem, friend. You mean so much to me. Jack gave it a 2.9. And I think that's really interesting. I am going to give this puppy a 3. Because for those reasons. I think the card is actually... But you're only playing it if someone's playing curses. And I think, ironically, you're not playing it if you are the curse deck. This is if someone else at your table is playing curses, this is a good option to mitigate curse tokens. Because I always say, and I will say it anytime we're talking about curse tokens, if someone at your table, in your group, is playing curse, you need to be able to mitigate curse tokens, or you are going to have a very bad time. And I will say that over and over and over again. Okay. So, now the fun part. We got to contrast and compare. So I think we would all agree that Hemlock Vale is a powerful set. That overall, the set is really good. But what's really interesting is that my first initial rating was a 3.10 and chat's was a 3.38. And then a year later, we have 2.95 and 3.09 from chat, with a 0.15 and a 0.29 drop from the 2 sides. If we compare that to Drowned City, the numbers are almost the same. But in theory, because also in Scarlet Keys, they've all dropped. Scarlet Keys went from 3.25 to 3.05, from 3.6 to a 3.26. So in theory, what was the number they dropped by? 0.2 and 0.4. So the numbers aren't close enough. I mean, we also, like, there's nothing here to bank on a trend yet, but in theory, this should drop 2, and it should drop like 1 point to 0.1 to 0.2 on my side. So it could go to a 2.77 would be a bad place for a set to be after a year. And chat has dropped 0.3 to 0.4, which would put you guys to what, 2.7 to tie with me at 2.6? That would be a bad place for that to be. I'm curious, because I do think Hemlock is a very good set, and if its average is slightly below 3, but it is 3, like it's practically 3, and Drowned City is practically 3 on my end. No, but another thing too is that you can also see that chat has also, their initial rating, like mine, has also dropped on each one as well. Very curious, but this is the part I really like about doing this. Would you consider redoing rankings for early sets? I actually have. I've done re-ranking videos for early sets, and I've thought about maybe revisiting them, but the only issue is I never did those in these spreadsheets, which are a really good way to like contrast and compare. right? Because then I can like see the ratings and I look at how they were over a year. We can see where like the major differences were. So, but I have done re-rankings, or like re-ranking like X years later, right? But I never actually like made the spreadsheets. So this might just be like a, because I don't think I did an Edge of the Earth one. Oopsie, I could just close chat. Sorry, chat, I just closed you. By the way, if you're still watching, yes, this is part of the video, but we will be out of here. I'll be signing off right away. Yeah, no, I do not have an Edge of the Earth one. I mean, I definitely could do it with the same system that I have. You know, honestly, I mean, that's probably a good thing to do. That's probably a good thing to do, especially with things rotating out. We can get like a final rating in for all these things and lock in the rating and then be like, this is where the card was. Like, this is what the thoughts were for the full pool when it rotated out, right? Even though everything's going to rotate out in batches, I can still kind of drip feed it. And then we can also, yeah, compare to see how sets like Dunwich, Carcosa, and all that actually go with the rating as well. I'd be down. I think that's a good idea. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments. But in the meantime, thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you in 1 year for us to do a re-rank. Well, not of Hemlock, sorry, that's of Drowned City. Hemlock's done for the time being. Like I said in the part 1, I might revisit these Hemlock ones in like 2 years from now. Just curious. Like, also, maybe again, the idea is when they rotate out of Standard, I can do that. We'll find out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, a GG's.